Good evening. Welcome to the Mac's Zoom production of Mac Theater's scenes from some classics and also from three talented local playwrights. I am Jennifer Wolfe-Webb, president of the Marion Arts Center Board. Much of our Mac Theater program has been limited by the pandemic, but our mission to bring culture and entertainment to our community is a mission that cannot be in lockdown. To that end, the Mac Theater has brought together this performance for your enjoyment. It will also serve as a springboard for our Readers Theater initiative, which, once the health crisis is over, will allow us to take Mac Theater beyond our physical boundaries and into the community. We hope you enjoy this debut. The Mac survives and thrives on membership and donations. If you're not yet a member, please consider joining the Mac. You'll get many benefits at a modest price. I hope you'll also consider making a donation to support the Mac this evening. You can do both at our website, marionartscenter.org. In addition, check out our online art auction fundraiser running just this week and find a treasure while benefiting the Mac. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Our first offering is by Lewis Carroll, born Charles Lutwidge Dodson, an English writer of children's fiction. He was noted for his facility at wordplay, logic, and fantasy, and his poems, Jabberwocky and The Hunting of the Snark, are classified in the genre of literary nonsense. Of course, he is most famous for his children's books, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and its sequel, Through the This piece is from Chapter 7 of Alice's Adventures, A Mad Tea Party, and it features Cameron Bennett as Alice, Jack Boson as the March Hare, Elaine Carbone as the Dormouse, Scott Fishman as the Mad Hatter, and Ray Veary as the narrator.
There was a table set out under a tree in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head.
Pretty uncomfortable for the dormouse, only as it's asleep, I suppose it doesn't mind.
The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded together at one corner of it.
No
room!
No room!
They cried out when Alice was coming.
There's plenty of room,
Alice said indignantly, and she sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table.
Have some wine.
Alice looked all around the table, but there was nothing on it but tea.
I don't see any wine.
There isn't any.
Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it.
It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited.
I didn't know it was your table. It's laid out for a great many more than three.
Your hair wants cutting,
said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice for some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech.
You should learn not to make personal remarks. It's very rude.
The Hatter opened his eyes very wide on hearing this, but all he said was,
"Why is a raven like a writing desk?"
Come, we shall have some fun now. I'm glad they've begun asking riddles. I believe I can guess that.
Do you mean that you think you can find out the answer to it?
Exactly so.
Then you should say what you mean.
I do. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know.
Not the same thing a bit. You might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same thing as I eat what I see.
You might just as well say that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like.
You might just as well say,
added the Dormouse, who seemed to be talking in its sleep,
that I breathe when I sleep is the same as I sleep when I breathe.
It is the same thing with you.
Here the conversation dropped, and the party sat silent for a minute, while Alice thought over all she could remember about ravens and writing desks, which wasn't much. The Hatter was the first to break the silence.
What day of the month is it?
he said, turning to Alice. He had taken his watch out of his pocket and was looking at it uneasily, shaking it every now and then and holding it to his ear. Alice considered a little and then said,
The 4th.
2 days wrong.
The Hatter sighed. Then he turned on the March Hare angrily.
I told you butter wouldn't suit the works.
It was the best butter.
Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well. You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife.
The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily, and then he dipped it into his cup of tea and looked at it again. But he could think of nothing better to say than his first remark.
It was the best butter, you know.
Alice had been looking over his shoulder with some curiosity and now said,
What a funny watch. It tells the day of the month and doesn't tell what o'clock it is.
Why should it? Does your watch tell you what year it is?
Of course not, but that's because it stays the same year for such a long time together.
It is just the case with mine.
Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. The Hatter's remark seemed to have no sort of meaning in it, and yet it was certainly English.
I don't quite understand you.
The dormouse is asleep again.
And with this, the Hatter poured a little hot tea upon the Dormouse's nose. The Dormouse shook its head impatiently and said, without opening its eyes,
Of course. Just what I was going to remark myself.
Now the Hatter turned to Alice.
Have you guessed the riddle yet?
No, I give it up. What's the answer?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Nor I.
Alice sighed wearily.
I think you might do something better with the time than waste it in asking riddles that have no answers.
And if you knew time as well as I do, you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, of course you don't. I dare say you never even spoke to time.
Perhaps not, but I know I have to beat time when I learn music.
Ah, that accounts for it. He won't stand beating. Now, if you only kept on good terms with him, he'd do almost anything you liked with the clock. For instance, suppose it were 9 o'clock in the morning, just time to begin lessons. You'd only have to whisper a hint to time, and round goes the clock in a twinkling. 1:30, time for dinner.
I only wish it was.
That would be grand, certainly, but then I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know.
Not at first, perhaps, but you could keep it to 1:30 as long as you liked.
Is that the way you manage?
Not
The Hatter shook his head mournfully.
We, quarreled last March. Time, I mean.
He then pointed at the March Hare with his spoon and gave a knowing nod of his head.
Just before he went mad, you know, it was at the great concert given by the Queen of Hearts, and I had to sing. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at. You know the song, perhaps?
I've heard something like it.
Well, it goes on, you know, in this way. Up above the world you fly like a tea tray in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle.
Here the Dormouse shook itself and began singing in its sleep.
Twinkle, 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 twinkle.
But it went on so long that they had to pinch it to make it stop.
Ouch! Oh, sorry.
The Hatter continued with his story.
Well, I'd hardly finished the first verse when the Queen jumped up and bawled out, "He's murdering the time off with his head!"
How dreadfully savage.
And ever since that, he, time, you know, won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now.
At this, a bright idea came into Alice's head.
Is that the reason so many tea things are put out here?
Yes, that's it. It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash the things between whiles.
Then you keep moving round, I suppose?
Exactly so, as the things get used up.
But what happens when you come to the beginning again?
Here the March Hare interrupted with a yawn.
Suppose we change the subject. I'm getting tired of this. I vote the young lady tells us a story.
I'm afraid I don't know one.
So both the Hatter and the March Hare declared,
And the Dormouse shall. Wake up, Dormouse.
Dormouse?
and they pinched it on both sides at once. The Dormouse slowly opened its eyes.
I wasn't asleep.
It said in a hoarse, feeble voice.
I heard every word you fellows were saying.
Tell us a story.
And be quick about it, or you'll be asleep again before it's done.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little sisters, and their names were Elsie, Lacey, Tilly, and they lived at the bottom of a well.
What did they live on?
Alice always took a great interest in questions of eating and drinking. After some thinking, the Dormouse replied.
They lived on treacle.
They couldn't have done that, you know. They'd have been ill.
So they were very ill.
Alice tried to fancy to herself what such an extraordinary way of living would be like, but it puzzled her too much, so she moved on.
But why did they live at the bottom of a well?
Take some more tea.
I've had nothing yet, so I can't take more.
You mean you can't take less? It's very easy to take more than nothing.
Nobody asked your opinion.
Who's making personal remarks now?
Alice did not quite know what to say to this, so she helped herself to some tea and some bread and butter, and then turned to the Dormouse and repeated her question.
Why did they live at the bottom of a well?
The Dormouse again took a minute or two to think about it, and then said,
It was a treacle well.
There's no such thing.
Alice was beginning to get very angry, but the Hatter and March Hare went,
Shh.
If you can't be civil, you'd better finish the story for yourself.
No, please go on. I won't interrupt again. I dare say there may be one.
One indeed.
The Dormouse was indignant. However, it consented to go on.
And so these 3 little sisters, they were learning to draw, you know.
What did they draw?
Alice had forgotten her promise, but the Dormouse answered her nonetheless, and without hesitation it said,
Treacle.
I want a clean cut. Let's all move one place on.
He moved on as he spoke, and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place, and Alice rather unwillingly took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change, and Alice was a good deal worse off than before, as the March Hare had just upset the milk jug into its plate. Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she began very cautious.
But I don't understand. Where did they draw the treacle from?
You can draw water out of a water well, so I should think you could draw treacle out of a treacle well. Eh, stupid?
But they were in the well.
Of course they were. Well in.
This answer so confused Alice that she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. The Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes, for it was getting very sleepy.
They were learning to draw, and they drew all manner of things. Everything that begins with an M.
Why with an M?
Why not?
Alice was silent. The Dormouse had closed its eyes by this time and was going off into a doze. But on being pinched by the Hatter, it woke up again with a little shriek
E!
and went on.
That begins with an M, such as mousetraps and the moon and memory and muchness. You know, you say things are much of muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness?
Really, Now, you ask me, I don't think that
And
there's...
you shouldn't talk.
This piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in great disgust and walked off.
At any rate, I'll never go there again. It's the stupidest tea party I was ever in all my life.
The end.
Our next presentation is Toogood by Jackson Gillman and Bill Harley. Gillman, formerly from Maine, is a local playwright, actor, and director with his own one-man show, Stand Up Chameleon. In 2020, Jackson received the Oracle Award from the National Storytelling Network. It is now part of their distinguished circle of excellence. His co-author, Bill Harley, is a performing artist, storyteller, author, and playwright from Seekonk. He won the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities. This scene features Elaine Carbone and Jackson Gillman and relays a phone conversation between a hostess at the fancy Popplestone restaurant and Archibald Toogood III. The tone is genial at first and gradually, well, you'll see.
Millicent, what time should we make that reservation for? 1:30. Great. Well, let's call. Where's the phone? They used to always be plugged into the wall. Now they just have feet that wander around. Oh, here, it's in my pocket. There it is. Can't see a thing. Where the tarnation are my glasses? Oh, there they are. Yeah. Okay. What? I forgot the number. What's it? Let me try that. 276-5437. Okay, they're putting me through now.
No, they don't have a reservation. Just stick them in the Popplestone room and assign the new waitress to them.
They know where to put us with every week. They should put a plaque on the table.
Hello, this is the Popplestone restaurant.
I'd like to make reservations for Sunday dinner.
Fine, sir. May I have your name, please?
Yes. That will be the Toogoods.
Fine, Mr. Good. Two of you.
No.
Now, what time would you like to make the reservation for?
Well, we'd be coming at 1:30, but I'm afraid there's a little problem with my name.
I'm sorry to hear that, sir. But what about the time? There is difficulty at 1:30. We're all filled up then. Is Too Good?
Yes, that's it. Toogood.
Good.
No, Toogood.
Yes, that's what I said. Now, what about the room? What room would you like? The Popplestone room? Or there is one table left in the bay room. Would you like that?
Yes. We're Toogood for the bay room.
Well, it is a very nice room, sir. But if you prefer, we'll put you in the Popplestone room. So that will be two goods for the Popplestone room.
I said I wanted the bay room.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood you.
No misunderstanding. It's okay.
I thought you said you were too good for the bay room.
Yes, we are.
So you want the Popplestone room?
I want the bay room.
I thought you said you were too good.
Look, I think there's still a little problem with my name.
And I said I was sorry to hear that. Look, let's back up a minute. Just tell me the first names of the people in your party.
Well, if you must know, my wife's name is Millicent. No, I'm not talking to you, dear. I'm still on the phone. And I am Archibald the Third.
Then who is the second?
Well, my father, of course, but I don't see what that's got to do with anything. He won't be joining us.
Look, Archie.
Yes.
You're the third.
Yes.
Then who is the second?
My father.
And you're the third.
Yes.
Good. That will be three goods for the Popplestone room.
Listen, we are too good for the bay room.
Well, Well, all right, fine. So we'll put you in the Popplestone room and we'll put your father in the bay room.
He won't be joining us.
I understand that, sir. That's why I thought I'd put him in the bay room.
We want the bay room.
Okay. We'll put your father in the Popplestone room.
No.
Look, Mr. Good, I'm sorry. Exactly how many people will be in your party?
There's still a problem with my name.
Can we forget about that for a minute? Just tell me, how many people will be in your party?
2.
2.
Good.
Good. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Good. Could you hold the line a moment, please? There's another call coming in.
We're not through yet. Don't put me on. Oh.
Hello? Oh, yes, Mr. Good enough.
She put me on hold.
Dinner for 2 on Sunday at 5 in the bay room. Fine. Thank you, Mr. Goodenough. We'll look forward to seeing you then.
You nincompoop! I'm going to talk to the
Yes,
man.
now,
In a
Mr.
fight. I can't believe the incompetence of these people here.
Yes, now, Mr. Good.
Listen, young lady. I don't know to whom you think you are speaking, but I am too good to get waiting like that.
I understand you're too good, sir, but we have no tables left at 1:30. Is too good?
Yes, that's it. My name is Toogood.
Please, Mr. Good, let's not start that crap again, shall we? A simple yes or no, please. Is too good?
Fine. If you insist on calling me Mr. Good, fine. For you, my name is Good. Mr. Good, just good.
Oh, so we're not too good anymore.
Yes. I mean, no. I don't know what the hell I mean.
Fine, Mr. Good. Now, what room would you like?
The bay room.
Oh, so we're not too good for the bay room anymore.
No. Yeah. Oh, God. This is not going to work. Just forget everything. I am sorry I called. My wife and I will not be coming to your restaurant. We'll just have to go somewhere else. Oh,
I'm sorry.
God, we'll have to go to the dockside or blah.
I'm sorry. Then we'll scratch the 2 of you from our reservation book.
And good
But
riddance.
wait. What about your father?
What about my father?
Since you will be dining in the Popplestone room, shall we put him in there?
No.
Okay, then we'll put him in the bay room.
He won't be coming at all.
Why not?
He's dead.
Since when?
He's been dead for 20 years.
Then why did you want to bring him to the restaurant?
I didn't.
Then why did you bring him up in the first place?
I don't know. Millicent, quickly, go into the bathroom and the medicine chest and get out my vial. Quickly, my pills. My pills.
Mr. Good? Mr. Good, are you there? Oh, we must have been cut off. That's just too bad.
No, it's too good.
Samuel Langhorne Clemens, best known as Mark Twain, was an American writer, humorist, entrepreneur, publisher, and lecturer. He was called the father of American literature by William Faulkner. He served an apprenticeship with a printer and then worked as a typesetter, contributing articles to the newspaper of his older brother, Orion Clemens. He later became a riverboat pilot on the Mississippi River, which influenced his creation of his pen name, and many of his stories reflect his love of the great Mississippi. His most well-known works include The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, also known as the Great American Novel. In this scene from Tom Sawyer, Jack Bosom plays the narrator, Gillman is Ben Rogers, and Frank Mitchell is Tom Sawyer. Tom devises a clever method of getting his Aunt Polly's fence whitewashed.
Tom took up his brush and went tranquilly to work whitewashing the fence. Ben Rogers hove in sight presently, the very boy of all boys whose ridicule he had been dreading. Ben's gait was the hop, skip, and jump, proof enough that his heart was light and his anticipations high. He was eating an apple and giving a long, melodious whoop at intervals, followed by a deep-toned ding, dong, dong, ding, dong, dong, for he was personating a steamboat. As he drew near, he slackened speed, took the middle of the street, leaned far over to starboard, and rounded to ponderously and with laborious pomp and circumstance. For he was personating the big Missouri, and considered himself to be drawing 9 feet of water. He was boat and captain and engine bells combined, so he had to imagine himself standing in his own hurricane deck, giving the orders and executing them.
Stop her, sir! Ding, ding, ding. Ship up back! Ding, ding, ding. Set her back on her starboard! Ding, ding, ding. Chow! 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 Ding, ding, ding. Set her back on her larboard! Ding, 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 ding.
Tom went on whitewashing, paid no attention to the steamboat. Ben stared a moment and then said,
Hey, you're up a stump, ain't you?
no answer. Tom surveyed his last touch with the eye of an artist. Then he gave his brush another gentle sweep and surveyed the result as before. Then ranged up alongside of him. Tom's mouth watered for the apple, but he stuck to his work. Ben said,
Oh, chap, you gotta work, don't you?
Tom wheeled suddenly and said,
Why, it's you, Ben. I weren't watching.
Well, say, I'm going swimming, I am. Don't you wish you could? But of course, you'd rather work, wouldn't you? Of course you would.
Tom contemplated the boy a bit and said,
What do you call work?
Well, ain't that work?
Well, maybe it is, and maybe it ain't. All I know is it suits Tom Sawyer.
Oh, come now. You don't mean to tell me you like that?
Like it? Well, I don't see why I oughtn't to like it. Does a boy get a chance to whitewash a fence every day?
That put the thing in a new light. Ben stopped nibbling his apple. Tom swept his brush daintily back and forth, stepped back to note the effect, added a touch here and there, criticized the effect again, then watching every move and getting more and more interested, more and more absorbed. Presently, he said,
Say, Tom, well, let me whitewash a little.
Tom considered, was about to consent, but he altered his mind.
No, I reckon it wouldn't hardly do, Ben. You see, Aunt Polly's awful particular about this fence. Right here on the street, you know. I mean, if it was the back fence, I wouldn't mind, and she wouldn't. Yeah, she's awful particular about this fence. It's got to be done very careful. I reckon there ain't one boy in 1,000, maybe 2,000, that can do it the way it's got to be done.
No, is that so? Well, come on now, just let me try. Only just a little. I mean, I bet you if you was me, Tom.
And I'd like to, honest engine, but Aunt Polly, well, Jim wanted to do it, but she wouldn't let him. Sid wanted to do it, and she wouldn't let Sid. Now, don't you see how I'm fixed? If you was to tackle this fence and anything was to happen to it, why, I just...
Oh, shucks, I'll be just as careful. You let me try. Hey, say, I'll give you the core of my apple.
Well, here, No, Ben, no, don't. I'm afeard.
Hey, listen, I'll give you all of it.
Tom gave up the brush with reluctance in his face, but alacrity in his heart. And while the late steamer, Big Missouri, worked and sweated in the sun, the retired artist sat on a barrel in the shade close by, dangled his legs, munched his apple, and planned the slaughter of more innocents. There was no lack of material. Boys happened along every little while. They came to jeer, but remained to whitewash. By the time Ben was tired out, Tom had traded the next chance to Billy Fisher for a kite in good repair. And when he played out, Johnny Miller bought in for a dead rat and a string to swing it with. And so on, hour after hour. And when the middle of the afternoon came, from being a poor, poverty-stricken boy in the morning, Tom was literally rolling in wealth. He had, besides the things before mentioned, 12 marbles, a key that wouldn't unlock anything, a glass stopper of a decanter, a kitten with only one eye, a dog collar, but no dog, the handle of a knife, and a dilapidated old window sash. Tom said to himself that it was not such a hollow world after all. He had discovered a great law of human action without knowing it. Namely, that in order to make a man or a boy covet a thing, it is only necessary to make the thing difficult to attain. If he had been a great and wise philosopher, like the writer of this book, he would now have comprehended that work consists of whatever a body is obliged to do, and that play consists of whatever a body is not obliged to do. And this would help him to understand why performing on a treadmill is work, while rolling 10 pins or climbing Mont Blanc is only amusement. The end.
Hello again. I hope you've been enjoying the Mac Readers Theater debut. I'm going to interrupt the performance for a short minute to remind you to take the time to visit our website and make a donation. We would like to be able to take short theater pieces like these into schools, senior centers, and community programs. Developing and executing cultural programs like this one takes volunteers and donations, so I hope you'll take the time to make a contribution and perhaps volunteer. We would love to have you. Now please enjoy the rest of the show.
Our next playwright, Judith Black, is a professional storyteller and climate activist, and has appeared 14 times at the National Storytelling Festival. Ms. Black is a winner of the Oracle Award, storytelling's most coveted laurel. In this short, Young at Heart, Cameron Bennett plays the role of daughter, Sophia, and Jennifer Palmer plays the role of mom, Estelle. Estelle is in her home, calmly going through a large box of stuff, pulling out certain things and putting them in a pile. Sophia enters the house and calls out,
Mom, I think you're going to love Young at Heart. The people there are all lovely. I'm putting that yogurt on the third shelf in the fridge. But be free, it is your perfect food. Hey, so that you get someone clean out the roof gutters. Good show. Anyway, you'll like it there. That's the stuff I boxed up. Why are you pulling things out? Mom, that's the wrong direction. You know the new apartment is a postage stamp? Now, let's put all that stuff back in the boxes and get it out of here.
Doris is coming for all this at, she's coming at 2.
Doris? I made an arrangement with the Catholic Charities to pick it all up.
Oh, I canceled all that.
Jesus, Mom, why'd you do that? We have so little time. The agent emphasized that staging is really important when you put a place on the market. And no offense, this place is really gonna need a lot more than a few throw pillows. Ed's taking the boys to a ball game tonight, so I can come back and help. Who is Doris?
Oh, she's a member of our early response team.
Early response? That's a great idea. Is that like a group of friends who help each other out if one of you gets sick or you need to get somewhere?
No, actually, it's a local organization that helps immigrants and refugees if... What is the name of that horrible agency? ICE. That's it, ICE. Or the local police arrest them.
What?
Well, we go to court with the person or family and support them until they can get on their feet. Kept thinking I'd run into you at the courthouse.
Children and Family Services is in a different location than immigration court. How long have you been doing this?
About a year. Sure, I told you about it, but you've been really busy.
Yeah. My caseload does look like a popcorn machine without a lid. But even so, I don't know how I could have missed that. Mom, you have your own life to worry about right now. This is a big deal. Getting a good price for the house will really help cushion the move, and I'm so sorry Ed and I can't help more. The boys are just...
Honey, don't think twice about it. A child shouldn't have to support her parent.
I just wish we could cushion the move. Young at heart isn't cheap. Have you cleared out the bedrooms?
No.
No! 4 days! Remember, the place is supposed to look neutral.
I also canceled with the real estate agent.
What?
Sophia, thank you for your help and all the caring you put into this, but I've given it a lot of thought and I am not moving.
We have talked about this 12 times.
No, you talked. I listened.
I thought you agreed.
I listened.
You mean all this time you had no intention of moving?
No. I know how much planning you've done, and I really tried to see myself at Young at Heart.
When did you decide this was a bad idea?
I came to it slowly, like everything I do these days.
Mom.
It's not a completely wasted effort. You can use all this research when Ed's parents move from their home.
Mom, even if you want to stay, you're just not safe here anymore. There was that fall a couple weeks ago, the Strawberry Patch episode. You remember?
3 hours? How could I forget? It's just that I stayed bent over weeding the strawberries for way too long and couldn't unfurl. See, now that was the perfect word. Unfurl.
Mom, you could have died from dehydration if the neighbors hadn't seen you out there.
But they did, and I am fine. Now, I agree with you about all the challenges. Also, that there's too much of this house for one old lady.
So,
I have invited a family from Honduras to come and live here with me. Alma and Jorge and their 5 children will be moving in on Thursday. That's why I'm removing things that children might need from the boxes. Now I am glad we held on to your childhood furniture and all these sweet things. They'll go to good use.
Mom, who are these people? How did you meet them? When did you decide on this? This isn't a safe choice. I want their contact information.
No. Sophia, these are good people. I met them through the Early Response Network and the church. The church helped sponsor their immigration, but their status is not secure yet.
Are they illegals?
You know better than that. Humans can't be illegal. You can do something that is illegal, but a whole being can't be illegal. Unless they are cyber, like Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that movie.
You don't have to lecture me on the meaning of illegal, and you're just playing with semantics.
No, a serious difference. All people deserve respect. Well, unless they are real scumbags.
What a mouth my mommy has.
Only truth from this organ. Orifice.
Mom, please rethink this. A retirement community is not a prison cell. Young at Heart can provide every support you need. You have friends there.
Who?
Bob and Clarissa Miller are there, and they love it.
They're conservatives, dear. They're used to being waited on by people of color and immigrants.
Mom, really?
Sophia, really. It's a place where, what the hell is that word? A place where, oh, damn, I hate using a lesser term, but basically, poor people help rich people get ready for death.
It is a place where people can age in dignity and comfort.
Ding, ding. Next stop, senior living. Ding, ding. Next stop, assisted living. Ding, ding. Next stop, nursing home. Ding, ding. Last stop, graveyard.
Is that what you think? That I want to send you someplace to die?
No, but can you understand that that kind of life looks like a premature death to me?
It's a beautiful facility, and the people there are active. There are endless things to do.
Oh, like summer camp. They keep us entertained and take all our money. It's like paying to be not a rodent. Though, it is a rodent. You had one when you were little. A gerbil. Like being a gerbil in one of those circular walking things.
Mom, that is not fair. They care about their clients. They individualize activity schedules and dietary needs. They have nurses on site and other professionals.
I don't want to be served or waited on. Look, the Grim Reaper will pluck me up when he is good and ready no matter where I am. Sophia, honey, this is my decision. I am not yet demented.
It'd be easier for all of you if it were.
Oh, very funny. And because I am at least of semi-sound mind, this is ultimately up to me.
To invite 7 strange Hondurans to live with you in a house that is falling apart.
Yes, by inviting 7 good and kind Hondurans to live with me in a house that has seen better days. Do you know there's a thing called a dry hall? No. Area. Oh, corridor. That's it. A dry corridor running through Central America. It's because of all this climate misery. It doesn't rain there anymore. Jorge used to grow over 400 pounds of food in a year. Now he can't feed his children. By the way, it was Jorge who cleaned out the roof gutters.
That was very nice of him, but Mom, think seriously. You will end up taking care of them, and you are too old for that. Look, it's noble of you to want to help these people, but you have no idea what their needs will be or what it will be like when you're living with them. I've worked with these families. Today it's 7 people, and in a month there'll be 15 relatives ensconced here. Then 20, 25. They could take horrible advantage of you.
Let them.
What?
I have had enormous advantage in my life. Being born here, college, abundance. I want to share some of that advantage with them.
What if they take a lot more than you intend on giving?
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge if we get there.
What if one of the children gets hurt on that old staircase, or where the floor is falling apart in the guest room and the back porch could cave in and kill someone? What if there's just...
Or, Sophia, they are camped out in a single room and surviving on air. This place looks like paradise to them. Besides, we have a contract. They don't want to take without giving. Jorge took one look at the back porch and said he would repair and paint it. They'll be cleaning the house, helping me with meds and the few walking, moving, mobility issues I have.
I'd like to see this contract.
It's in Spanish.
Then how do you know what's in it?
Yo estudio español.
You are full of surprises. At 83, you're learning a new language?
Maybe my memory will be better in Spanish. Look, Sophia, Alma is a brilliant cook and mother, and Jorge is looking for work as a landscaper. And the kids are simply gorgeous. Carlos, Esau, Maria, Jose, and Jacqueline. They're between 2 and 9. And of course I am a little nervous. There are lots of unknowns, but you, why are you so upset by this? I thought, well, you see family in terrible need every day. I hoped you would bless this venture. Sophia, what has happened to my bright-eyed, big-hearted idealist? When you were 4, you locked yourself in your bedroom and cried all night listening to Puff the Magic Dragon, swearing that if you were Jackie Paper, you'd never leave your friend. At 6, I got a call from the Barkers down the street that you were taking your red wagon around the neighborhood with your kid doctor bag, looking for injured animals to heal. When you went into middle school, you organized a cannon clothing drive for the Rwandans. What happened to that girl?
5 minutes ago, I'd have said she's older and wiser, but watching my 83-year-old mother embark on basically a humanitarian mission, I have to ask the same question.
Any guess what the answer is?
Not sure. It was that bright-eyed, big-hearted idealist who wanted to be a social worker.
And?
Wasn't this my colored pencil pack from 3rd grade?
Yes. Jacqueline and Carlos are both very artistic.
Look at all those colors. I used to think that every one of them resembled someone's skin from somewhere on this earth.
That is dear.
Children and Family Services doesn't expose you to the kinder and gentler folk. I see the worst that people can dish out. Women beaten by men who claim to love them. Children with burn marks from cigarettes on their arms and legs. Addicted parents who pawn their kids' meds. I didn't think it would change who I am. I'm sorry. Guess it's time to be your daughter and not your caseworker.
I want you to meet them. They will restore some of your faith in humankind. Can you and Ed and the boys come for supper Friday night?
They'll all be here?
Yes, and you've always loved ethnic food. No, cuisine.
Capusas?
Yes, but those are Salvadorian. Hondurans make them with a local type of cheese, a quesillo.
You still have a wicked learning curve, Mom.
Makes it harder for death to find you.
Okay, we will come to dinner and meet Jorge and Alma and
Esau, Jacqueline, Jose, Maria, and Carlos.
Your memory's already improving.
You'll like them.
I will try. And you might need some help negotiating the schools and the welfare system for them.
I know someone who is an expert at that.
Oscar Wilde was an Irish writer, poet, essayist, and playwright. Known for his biting wit, flamboyant dress, and glittering conversational skill, Wilde became one of the best-known personalities of his day. He also became one of the most popular playwrights in London, although he is probably best remembered for his novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. His Wildean epigrams are known and loved all around the world. Some you may know but not know their origin, such as, "I can resist everything except temptation." Well educated, Wilde studied at Trinity College Dublin and at Oxford. This next sketch is from the last of his plays published in his lifetime, The Importance of Being Earnest. It is from Act 1 and centers around an interview by the formidable Lady Bracknell played by Susie Kokins, of her daughter's suitor, Jack Worthing, played by Frank Mitchell.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I am glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of a modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it, about 1,500 acres, I believe, but I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only people who make anything out of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She is a lady considerably advanced in years.
Ah, nowadays that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
Oh, the unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
Well, I'm afraid I really have none. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening at any rate. Now, to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles to it, an ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at the Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to? As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, has probably indeed been used for that purpose before now, but it could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
May I ask you, then, what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the most utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Our last play is by Ray Veary, a New Bedford-based playwright whose work has been produced throughout New England as well as in New York City, Roanoke, Virginia, Oxnard, California, and elsewhere. His plays have garnered awards on both coasts. We present his short, Samuel Beckett's Chamber Pot. Inspiration for the style of the piece came from Beckett's own film, What Where, and has 5 friends discussing a proposed party tidbit involving Samuel Beckett and his chamber pot, a story straight from his biography, only to be visited by the great playwright himself. It features Cameron Bennett, Jack Boson, Elaine Carbone, Scott Fishman, Frank Mitchell, and Ray Veary as Samuel Beckett.
During World War II, the writer Samuel Beckett worked with the French resistance. He was eventually betrayed and had to go into hiding. A family took him in, but he soon wore out his welcome. He had the unfortunate habit of carrying his chamber pot through the kitchen to be emptied while the family was having lunch.
What?
During World War II, the writer Samuel Beckett worked with the French resistance. He was eventually betrayed and had to go into hiding. A family took him in, but he soon wore out his welcome. He had the unfortunate habit of carrying his chamber pot through the kitchen to be emptied while the family was having lunch.
The point?
I suppose it annoyed them.
What is your point in telling this story?
I'm practicing.
For what?
A party. I want to arrive with an interesting tidbit.
What sort of party?
Cocktails, fancy desserts, sparkling conversation.
I hate those parties.
There's a room with a suit of armor.
Does it do anything?
He said suit of armor, not robot.
It stands there. People tend to gather round it, and they exchange interesting tidbits.
Perhaps it inspires people.
Perhaps.
But not you.
Apparently.
Where did he go?
Who?
Samuel Beckett.
I saw a Beckett play once. Hated it. All those pregnant pauses.
That's Pinter.
What's Pinter?
That's who you're talking about. Harold Pinter, pregnant pauses.
I was talking about Samuel Beckett.
No, you're not.
Somebody here was talking about Samuel Beckett.
I was. Where did he go after he wore out his welcome?
I don't know.
Where did all this take place?
In France, someplace.
Where in France?
I don't know.
What was the name of the family?
I don't know.
Do you know who won the war?
We're not prepared.
Your tidbit is half-baked.
Suppose your story catches on. Word spreads that there's someone in the next room with a particularly interesting tidbit. People rush to you. They begin to ask a couple of questions, but you don't have the answers. Now they smell blood and start shouting things at you, pointing and gesturing. Next thing you know, someone knocks over the suit of armor and the helmet splashes into the souffle. Then the party ends because people can no longer use the downstairs bathroom. The door's been locked by someone inside, sobbing.
I didn't think it through.
It needs work. A great deal of it.
There isn't much time.
I'd concentrate on the chamber pot. People love hearing about chamber pots.
I don't.
They'll want to know if it was porcelain or metal, big or small, whether the family crest was on it, things like that. Do you have a photograph?
I don't think there is one.
All the better. A photograph will do then. People love photographs, particularly of chamber pots.
Can I do that ethically?
All right. Draw a picture of it.
I've never seen it.
Use your imagination.
My imagination?
I knew that would throw him.
Close your eyes and think about chamber pots. Samuel Beckett. World War II. Anything, but get a picture of that chamber pot in your mind that's so vivid that somebody else can sense it.
What's that?
What's what?
That fragrance.
Fragrance?
I was being polite. What would you call it?
I don't know. I don't smell anything. What would you call it?
Extraordinary.
Because it's bad? Good?
Because I can smell it at all. I'd forgotten how. I haven't smelled anything and I don't know how long.
I don't mean to be a punch in the nose, but that smell you think you're smelling is imaginary.
It's my imagination.
No, you're smelling a figment of someone else's imagination.
Is it also someone else's imagination that I think I'm talking? I'd like to know, because I haven't spoken in years as well. It feels like I am. I can feel my tongue flapping around, and there's this vibration in my sinuses, but that too may be imaginary.
Does anyone want to trade seats?
It's hard to tell because I can't hear either. If I could hear what I said and I said it, I'd be all set. But if I said one thing and I heard another, that'd be unsettling.
I'll pay you. Anybody?
Do 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 do.
That odor's back.
Fainter this time.
Fainter this time. Am I repeating myself?
That was me.
Yes, it was me.
No, it was me.
Just my luck. I'm finally speaking again, and what do? I start arguing with myself.
I think you're missing something.
Of course I'm missing something I can't hear.
You seem to have just heard me.
How do I know it's your voice I'm hearing and not my own?
Don't you know the sound of your own voice?
Used to, but I've long since forgotten.
I hear your quandary. May I make a suggestion?
I'm all ears.
Suppose I were to tell you something you don't already know. Then if you heard it, you'd know that somebody else must have told it to you, right? How does that sound?
Like the best idea I've heard all day.
Good. Now tell me something you don't already know.
It's going to be hard. I'm very knowledgeable.
Then all the things you don't know should be on the tip of your tongue.
Good point. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Pinochle. An old card-playing friend of mine tried to teach me the game once, but I took an immediate dislike to it. Didn't like the looks of it, the sound of it, the spelling of it. No. So I refused to learn. As a result, I'm proud to say I don't know anything about Pinochle.
Unfortunately, I don't either, so I've got nothing to.
Yes, I know. It would have been a good one, though.
Yes, it would have been a good one.
In fact, it may have been my best.
Your best? You mean your best effort?
Yes. And if I can't do my best, I really shouldn't be trying at all.
Something your parents taught you?
Yes. They wrote it on a card they gave to me on my 7th birthday instead of a bicycle.
I'm sorry my suggestion didn't work. There apparently is no way of my convincing you that you can hear without...
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A little help from my friends. How many sneezes were there?
One.
Not two?
No, just one.
Thank you. Just checking.
And the sneeze. I heard it.
From what I hear, you're right.
I can hear.
What about seeing?
Hard to tell. I'm in a box.
Because I like making suggestions, I'd like to make another. Why not take advantage of the moment? Try to remember how to see. Give it a really good look.
All right. Here goes.
Do 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 do.
I'm seeing. I'm seeing
What do you see?
faces.
What kind of faces?
Glum. Looking at me in gray light. Eerie.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yes, particularly coming on the same day I've remembered how to smell, speak, and hear.
Might make for another tidbit.
Tidbit?
Yes, Somebody had a tidbit earlier.
Sorry I missed it.
It was interesting.
So.
It needed work.
Not that much.
Enough.
Enough for what?
Enough that you could use another.
I don't need another.
Having a spare wouldn't hurt.
Could. Might confuse him. He might begin with one story and end with the other. Listeners will notice, unless there's liquor.
Have you thought this over?
Yes.
From every angle, backwards and forwards, considering every foreseeable contingency?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And your decision?
I don't care. I'm sticking with what I started with.
Inspiring words.
Very well.
Sam? Sam Beckett?
Frankie! It's been ages. How have you been?
It's funny you should ask. I had this bout with selective amnesia.
Selective?
Eyes, ears, nose, and throat. I couldn't remember much of how to use any of them. But then, out of nowhere, I caught a whiff of something. And now I see what it was. Your chamber pot. The one you told me about in that story of yours? Anyway, ever since I caught that whiff, I've returned to normal.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear about that.
That's all right. Hey, by the way, I saw Godot. Great stuff. You must be quite busy these days. Do you have any time left over for playing pinochle?
Oh, every chance I get. As I recall, you didn't take much to the game.
Not at all.
Well, probably just as well. Amnesia can't help at cards. Well, Frankie, if you ever change your mind on the subject, give me a call. We'll break out a couple of new decks.
How do you know Samuel Beckett?
We were in the French Resistance together, which reminds me of a story. Because he was fluent in both French and English, Sam's job was to translate French intelligence reports into English. Then we'd smuggle the reports over to the Allies. But someone informed the Nazis about him, and Sam and his wife had to go into hiding. They ended up in a small village called Veary, where a Carroll family took them in.
He's quite talkative without the amnesia, isn't he?
Sam and his wife had a problem, though. They were habitually late risers. They'd stay in bed till noon, so they were always out of sync with everyone else in the house. People would be seated around the kitchen table having lunch, and Sam would come traipsing through with his chamber pot, which he'd empty into the stream out back and then return through the kitchen. It was kind of an appetite killer.
You paint a vivid picture.
Eventually, Madame Carroll had had enough. She told Sam if he persisted with his dumping schedule, he'd have to go. Famous writer or not, it was going to have to be one way or the other. Long story short, they just couldn't get out of bed early enough. They ended up in Rehearsal. After the war, Sam was inducted into the French Legion of Honor. I don't know if they let Madame Carroll have a vote.
Have you told that story before?
Many times.
Recently?
With my memory, I can't really tell. But I do remember one time I was at a cocktail party and one guy started laughing so hard he knocked a suit of armor over into the dessert table.
I'm revising my decision. I'm not going.
How are you going to manage that?
I'll tell them I'm coming down with something.
What?
I'll come up with something to come down with.
Have you done this before?
Last year. The trick is to come up with something different. I don't want them to think I'm a chronic case.
The end.
That's tonight's entertainment from the Mac Theater. I hope you enjoyed our production. Please let us know what you thought. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us via email or telephone. A bit of good news, we will be offering a live production this year. The Mac Theater will present Good People, written by David Lindsay A. Bear and directed by Jacob Sherburne, as an outdoor live theater event in Bicentennial Park in Marion. Show dates are currently scheduled for August 14th through 16th and 20th through 23rd. All performances will begin in the late afternoon or early evening. Visit our website, marionartscenter.org, for more details. And now, good night, and thanks for your support of the Marion Arts Center.